Hello and good evening to our very first streaming on KINΗΣΗ για τα γράμματα και τις τέχνες, Movement for Arts and Poetry. We are celebrating today the 200 years after the Greek Revolution. Love needs kisses and war needs a song. Η αγάπη θέλει φίλημα και ο πόλεμος τραγούδι. And our country has many songs to sing. This is how the memories get preserved and the traditions go from one generation to the next. Today, we will take you to a musical and poetic journey from the Greek Revolution till the liberation of the Greek nation. Tonight is very special because for the first time, we are connecting poets from all over the world from the Greek diaspora. We will have poems from Australia, from America, and we have people joining us from Jordan, and others are watching, as I know, from Egypt, and are very happy to be here today with us. I want to thank first and foremost Mr. Chrysoulakis, who is the General Secretary of the Greek Diplomacy and Greeks Abroad, who will be saying his greetings tonight. Mr. Chrysoulakis, please.
Thank you very much. Dear compatriots, friends of Greece, dear poets, it is with great honor and emotion that I'm here with all of you on this year's celebrations marking the bicentennial of the Greek Revolution of 1821. 2 days ago, we celebrated March 25th, that marks a milestone for the past, present, and future of Hellenism throughout the world. The Annunciation to the Virgin Mary, a significant feast of the Orthodox Church, and the joyous news about the outbreak of the Greek Revolution in 1821 constitute today, as back then, core aspects of our national anniversary celebrations. 200 years after the Revolution of 1821, this year's anniversary is uniquely reflected in the threefold concept: memory, reflection, vision. The bicentennial anniversary of the Greek Revolution is a lesson in modern history, our own history, which awakens and preserves our common memory. As the uprising of 1821 united the Greek back then, so today the memory of that revolution, which led to the formation of the modern Greek state, awakens and unite us. This year's anniversary urges us to reflect on these 2 centuries course, both collectively and individually, starting by the demands of the Greek revolutionaries of 1821, but also re-examining all the course and outcome of the struggle for independence that led to our national rebirth. This starting point of our recent history will allow us to jointly envision our future and the future of our homeland. The celebration of the 200th anniversary since the outbreak of the Greek Revolution is also a key milestone for promoting Greece's image around the world. This is because it emphasizes the significance of the movement of Philhellenism, a movement that shook the international order and contributed to the key role of the international public opinion of that time to the successful outcome of the 1821 revolution. Dear compatriots and friends of Greece, let the bicentennial anniversary be both a point of reflection on our past and a point of our vision for the future, a common future for all of us, Greeks abroad, Greeks expatriates, and the Greek diaspora, but also for the world over friends of Greece, for our history, language and culture. All the best to all of you. Χρόνια πολλά σε όλους. Ζήτω η Ελλάδα.
Thank you. Thank you. Ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ. Now, πριν ξεκινήσουμε, καλά, θέλω να πω σε όλους όσους μας βλέπουν και περιμένουν να μιλήσουμε στα ελληνικά, ότι αυτή η βραδιά είναι αφιερωμένη στο αγγλόφωνο κοινό, το οποίο θα μας βλέπει. Οπότε θα αρκεστούμε στο να ακούμε τα τραγούδια και τα ποίηματα τα οποία έχουν έρθει και θα τα δούμε στα ελληνικά. Our land is enclosed, a rocky bay in the Mediterranean that has no other treasures but the struggle of its people, the sea and the sunlight. Our country is small, but carries with it a great dowry, its tradition and the Greek language, spoken and passed down for centuries. This land has a lot of patience, and for it to be free on this spot of earth, it needed many sacrifices. In Chios, in Psara, in Naoussa, in Messolongi, in Zalongos, and even in Pontos, in all the honorable streets and squares, the free besieged did not spare to face death to obtain their freedom, their liberty. And there is a great difference between the scale of the tiny heap of earth and the greatness of the sacrifices it had to endure. The first song we're going to hear is Our Country is Enclosed. The words are from George Seferis and the music is from Yannis Markopoulos. Ο τόπος μας είναι κλειστός. I want to invite Andy Petridis to read the poem which Angeliki Vogdani from Melbourne wrote. And I want to point out that these people we're going to be hearing today are living for many, many years abroad. So the important thing is that they still speak the Greek language and they carry the culture with them. So it's very impressive that they not just handle the language, but they rhyme and write lots of things, lots of good things about Greece. So, Andy, start.
200 χρόνια ελεύθεροι. 200 χρόνια ελεύθεροι, σε εκείνους το χρωστούμε, που έχισαν το αίμα τους ελεύθεροι να ζούμε. Οι σκλαβωμένοι Έλληνες, μες στην απόγνωσή τους, για την έσχρη ταπεΐνωση, ξεχύλισε η ορχή τους. Να αρπάζουν τα παιδάκια τους μακριά από την οικογένεια, τα νεαρά κορίτσια τους σκλάβες μες στα χαρέμια. Οι Ελληνίδες αντιδρούν, θάνατο προτιμάνε, και από βράχος και γκρεμούς πέφτοντας τραγουδάνε. Εκεί που πλάκωνε η σκλαβιά κι άπλωνε το σκοτάδι, θα σπάσουν την ταφόπλακα να βγουν από τον άδη. Ρακενδυτοί, μα τολμηροί, στους βράχους στα λιμέρια, να φέρουνε τη ελευθεριά με τα δικά τους χέρια. Είχανε πίστη στον Χριστό και αγάπη στη πατρίδα και με την πίστη στον Θεό φτέρωσαν την ελπίδα. Ελευθεριά ή θάνατος ήτανε το σύνθημά τους. Θα έρθει το ποθούμενο, το λέει η καρδιά τους. Σαν λάβαρο κοιμάτιζε ράσο και φουστανέλα και έγινε κλήρος και λαός τα γαρινού φοβέρα. Ποτάμι αίμα χύθηκε, στράκηξαν τη ψυχή τους και από τα βόλια κόσκινο έγινε το κορμί τους. Κάποιοι τρανοί χλεβάζανε για το ξεσήκωμό μας, μα οι Έλληνες πιστέψαμε στο σύμμαχο Θεό μας. Οι Ευρωπαίοι έμειναν με ανοιχτό το στόμα. Πώς ξάπλωσε ένας Δαβίδ τον Γολιάθ στο χώμα. Εκεί που η Ελλάδα μας φαινόντανε ως νεκρή, σαν το Χριστό αναστήθηκε και βγήκες ζωντανή. Πεθαίνει και ανασταίνεται και ταπεΐνη διαβαίνει, αθάνατη, μοναδική, η Ελλάδα δεν πεθαίνει. Με δόξα τη στεφάνωσαν τα ηρωικά παιδιά της και με τον χάρο πάλεψαν να δει τη ελευθεριά της. Και αυτοί που μας χρωστάγανε και ρέστα μας ζητάνε, με το αιώνιο μίσο τους ξανά μας πολεμάνε. Σταθείτε όρθιοι Έλληνες, μη κάμπετε αυχένα, γιατί είσαστε απόγονοι, παιδιά του 21. Σαν ήλιος θα ανατέλουνε να φέρνουν την λιακάδα η πίστη μας για το Χριστό και η μάνα μας Ελλάδα. Αγγελική Βοηδάνη Έπινγκ. Ευχαριστώ.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The next song is dedicated to the light which led the Greeks to the freedom. But before the light could find its way to us, there was a lot of silence.
Άκρα του τάφου σιωπή, στον κάμπο βασιλεύει. Λαλή πουλί παίρνει σπυρί, κι η μάνα το ζηλεύει. Άκρα του τάφου σιωπή, στον κάμπο βασιλεύει. Λαλή πουλί παίρνει σπυρί, κι η μάνα το ζηλεύει. Άκρα του τάφου σιωπή, στον κάμπο βασιλεύει. Λαλή πουλί παίρνει σπυρί, κι η μάνα το ζηλεύει. Τα μάτια η πείνα εμαύρισε, στα μάτια η μάνα μνέει. Στέκει ο σουλιώτης ο καλός, παράμερα και κλαίει. Τα μάτια η πείνα εμαύρισε, στα μάτια η μάνα μνέει. Στέκει ο σουλιώτης ο καλός, παράμερα και κλαίει. Έρμο του φεκί σκοτεινό, τις έχω εγώ στο χέρι, όπου μου γίνες βαρύ, κι ο αγαρίνος το ξέρει. Πούσι μου γίνες βαρύ, κι ο αγαρίνος το ξέρει. Άκρα του τάφου σιωπή, στον κάμπο βασιλεύει. Λαλή πουλί παίρνει σπυρί, κι η μάνα το ζηλεύει.
200 years later, who will remember? History is still inspiring poets from the diaspora to write about their islands, about their heritage. The memories carry on, like in the poem of Sofia Corajes, who tells us about Chios. Chios, the island shaped like a sandal. Its footprint remains in the sea. Only 4 miles away from the devil, they say, his breath still lingers on thee. The tears of the magic trees glistened, soaking the earth with despair, as they arrive in their fleets staining all over the streets, leaving them only with prayer. Chios were sold, maimed and murdered. Young women purchased as slaves. The sandal was left there in ashes, but the blue and white flag proudly waves. They never backed down their resistance as the cross bled over their fears. Freedom or death, they all shout with one breath, and it echoes for 200 years. The island, shaped like a sandal, its footprint still following me, as God follows the Aegean, so that Greeks and her children are free. The next song is the worship of the merciful mother. Μητέρα μεγαλόχαρη είναι το επόμενο μας τραγούδι. Τα λόγια είναι του Διονύσιου Σολομού και η μουσική του Γιάννη Μαρκόπουλου. Μητέρα μεγαλόχαρη. Merciful Mother.
Στη δόξα
So I will continue then with the next poem, which is quite impressive one. This one is coming from Nikos Nomikos from Melbourne. It's in Greek. It's not a poem. It's something he put together for this day. Αρχής γενομένης του αγώνα, απόδημοι Έλληνες με υψηλές κοινωνικές θέσεις, όπως ο στρατηγός Αλέξανδρος Υψηλάνδης, ο Καποδίστριας και άλλες γνωστές προσωπικότητες, όπως η μεγαλέμπορη αδερφή Ζωσιμιά και άλλοι, τον Αδαμάντιο Κοραή, το Ρίγα Φεραίο, με το περίφημο του Θούριο, στην αγωνιστική στήριξη. Στην υπόθεση του αγώνα του 1821, παρατηρούμε ένα σπουδαίο μέσον στην επιτυχία του αγώνα, που είναι η ευλογημένη ένωση άπαντων των Ελλήνων. Και γράφει από κάτω, παραθέτω το πρώτο μέρος της ιστορικής προκήρυξης του Αλέξανδρου Υψηλάνδη, που λέγει «Μάχου υπερπίστεως και πατρίδος, η ώραν ήλθεν ο άνδρες Έλληνες. Οι αδερφοί μας και φίλοι είναι πανταχού έτοιμοι. Ας ενωθόμεν λοιπόν με ενθουσιασμόν. Η πατρίς μας προσκαλεί. Αυτή είναι η ιδιαιτερότητα της φετινής χρονιάς 2021 και οι ευχές μας να συνοδεύουν το μέλλον της πατρίδας μας με ειρήνη και γαλανεόλευκη ευημερία.
Παλικάρια να ζούμε στα στενά, να έχει σαν λιοντάρια στις δράκες στα βουνά. Κάλιονται μιας ώρας ελεύθερη ζωή, παρά 40 χρόνια σκλαβιά και φυλακή, παρά 40 χρόνια σκλαβιά και φυλακή. Να κατοικούμε, να βλέπομεν κλαδιά, να φεύγουμε απ' τον κόσμο για την πικρή σκλαβιά. Κάλιονται μιας ώρας ελεύθερη ζωή, παρά 40 χρόνια σκλαβιά και φυλακή, παρά 40 χρόνια σκλαβιά και φυλακή. Αδέλφια, πατρίδα και γονείς, τους φίλους, τα παιδιά μας κι όλους τους συγγενείς. Κάλιονται μιας ώρας ελεύθερη ζωή, παρά 40 χρόνια σκλαβιά και φυλακή, παρά 40 χρόνια σκλαβιά και φυλακή. τόπον ενδοξότερον από τούτο το αλωνάκι.
The years passed. Children were born and raised with quiet stories around the fire, with memories and words written under the dim light of the lamp. This is how they kept the traditions alive. They followed in the footsteps of others on the unchanging earth, and they fell asleep with their hearts light. When they woke up again, new days dawned with more light.
Καράβια φορτωμένα προσφυγιά βάψαν τα πανιά τους μαύρα, τα κατάρτια τους μαβιά.
το πατέρας ψάχνει μάνα για παιδιά. Μα σε σκόρπισο αγέρας, σαν λιγή σαλιστεριά.
Andri Petridis will read the poem from Connie Gregory from Melbourne in Victoria, which is about the Castellorisians, which have left Castellorizo and are living in Australia, still upholding the ideas of the ancestors. Andy.
Castellorisians, Cassis, in Australia still uphold the ideals that our ancestors brought to Australia from Castellorizo more than a century ago. Castellorisians in Australia, 74 years since reunification and somatocy. A drop in the ocean, a ripple in the Limani. Rather, 2074 years, more or less, Katsi tradition rocks on. Throughout Australia, the diaspora created many clubs, a great start by our ancestors joining together on Australian soil. Looking forward, but harking back to history. Rich in traditions kept alive through centuries of turbulence, change, opulence, poverty, wars, destruction, and now renaissance. Our ancestors were smart starting clubs in Australia, formalizing roots in the new country. Castellorisians were masters of adaptation and still are. What doesn't change is in the blood. Values, striving for betterment, family ethos, faith, hope, charity. Celebrate 74 years. Celebrate the War of Independence. Celebrate the centuries. We rejoice that we are Katsi Australians, not Venetian, Ottoman, Italian, Turkish, or French Katsis, but proud Greek Katsi Australians. By Connie Gregory. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you, Andy. The rhythms and songs changed slowly. They incorporated the sorrow into the poems, and the poems into songs to go on. The remembrance of the homes they had, the lives they had to leave behind, is inscribed not in possessions, not in their hearts, in their minds and in the musical heritage. After the liberation, which was completed periodically until 1920, the Greek communities begin to work. They become stronger. They set first foundations of the new phase in life and write new songs. They sing a lot. In Smyrna, on Asia Minor, they knew 300,000 different songs. They were singing not just traditional, but also musical songs, operettes and opera. These songs exist still today, and like the last one, have been sung also in other languages, like Menexedes και Ζουμπούλια, which many of us still do remember. Violets and hyacinths is the translation for that. The next poem has sent us Stella Lagakou. She wrote that actually this year on the 6th of March. I will read the last two verses from this one. 200 χρόνια από το 21 της Στέλλας Λαγάκου. Θα διαβάσω τις δύο τελευταίες στροφές της. Τα μάρμαρα εξύπνησαν και οι πέτρες της μιλάνε και κάθε ρέμα αδούλωτο για ιστορία μιλάνε. Οι Έλληνες πάντοτε ήρωες. Έπλεξε ο Όμηρος αξίες στην καρδιά τους, με φιλοσιά πατριωτισμού κέρδισαν την ελευθεριά τους. Rhymes and melodies join and blend with each other during the musical journey. The elements of Greek folk music, bourgeois art music, and European musical tradition fill the streets and alleys and neighborhoods of the coast of Asia Minor with joyful songs until the great tragedy of the destruction of the Greeks of Asia Minor and Pontus. A good example how the pain is being weaved into the song is the song Izmirni Mana Kegete. And now I would like Kalliopi Tufidou to invite Kalliopi Tufidou to read her poem. Hello, Kalliopi.
Γεια σας και χρόνια πολλά.
Χρόνια πολλά.
Ελλάδα μου. Μα τη λαμπρή περίμενα να ήσουν στολισμένοι. Μάνα μου, τι σου φόρεσαν κι είσαι κουρελιασμένη. Τα λούλουδα της άνοιξης νόμιζα πως θα ανθίσουν. Οι πασχαλιές στα κρίνα σου ήθελε να σε ντύσουν. Πόσο τον ηρευόμουν να έρθω να σ' αγκαλιάσω και να σου σύρω το χορό μαζί σου να γιορτάσω. Στα μέσα μου είπαν πως πονάς και κλαις για τη δολία. Εσύ ήσουν μια αρχόντισσα, ζούσες στα μεγαλεία. Μα ζήλευαν τα κάλλη σου, τη λάμψη των ματιών σου, με τις πολλές σου αρετές και το φιλότιμό σου. Αχ, να μπορούσα, μάνα μου, τους ξένους να ξεκάνω, να σε στολίσω με φλουριά και ύστερα σπεθάνω. Τότε θα έρθει άνοιξη, λαμπρή που καρτερούμε, για όλους μας Ανάσταση και ειρήνη να χαρούμε. Ευχαριστώ.
Thank you. Ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ. Είναι συγκινητικό το ότι και μετά από τόσα χρόνια διατηρείται το ταλέντο αυτό της ρήμας. Έτσι, γιατί είναι πραγματικά ταλέντο.
Αυτή είναι η ταυτότητά μας. Αυτή είναι η ταυτότητά μας.
Yes. This is exactly the way you would continue with a tradition through a song, and where you would weave the rhythms and the rhymes in, and preserve also the myths in it. And one myth which got really well preserved was the myth of the marble king, του μαρμαρωμένου βασιλιά.
κοκκινή μιλιά, το πετροχέλι δόνια. Μάτοι εμείνανε κι όνειρο γίνανε και δακρυσμένα χρόνια. Μάτοι εμείνανε κι όνειρο γίνανε και δακρυσμένα χρόνια. Έστειλα δυο παιδιά στην κοκκινή μιλιά, το πετροχέλι δόνια. Για το μεγάλο βασιλιά, ούτε φωνή ούτε λαλιά, μα τραγουδάει όπως τα παιδιά, σαν παραμύθι η γιαγιά. Έστειλα δυο παιδιά στην κοκκινή μιλιά, το πετροχέλι δόνια. Μάτοι εμείνανε κι όνειρο γίνανε και δακρυσμένα χρόνια. Και δακρυσμένα χρόνια. Και δακρυσμένα χρόνια.
And on our musical journey, they are setting back out on the road, uprooted. Their few souvenirs were shrines, a handful of earth and seeds, songs, but above all, many memories. Slowly, very slowly, the songs filled the soul and calmed them down. They mingled and gained land and joy again. But in the sky, which was accumulating clouds again, new threats came to Greece. The Greeks again set out to protect their country. It was the first courageous example of people in the Second World War. Patty, it's your turn now to read your poem.
Parting words of a Greek soldier. Then all was dark, and I floated toward heaven. The light guided my way. I didn't know that you'd be my life, my soul, forever gentle source, streaming through every pore of me, my essence. Loving me, bathing me in warm splendor, lighting my inner being with everything that is whole. Yet I pause and look back at my loved ones. Even as I float above them, I see their sadness. I feel their pain, but they cannot see me. I waver, hoping our love reunites once more. I reach down to stroke away your tears, hoping you will know that I still love you, my father, my mother. My sister, my brother, all who still live on this earth that will taste fear. I no longer fear, but am filled with love. Even though I have parted this earth, not of my doing, one day we will reunite, one day. And it will be the happiest day for us all. I'm sorry, I started crying. I didn't expect to cry. Thank you.
It is very moving. It is very moving. And when did this concert with all these songs, although we knew these songs, with all the wording which we had in between, the whole choir was with a tissue in their hand, because the songs and the words carry so much emotion that we were all in tears. We were all in tears. So now we will hear, this is our live bit, which we had actually planned to do, in a Oefedros Anthipologagos. And Anna has prepared that together with Dimitri, and also Michaela, who wanted to be part of it, Michaela Parolas. So they will sing this for us now. Oefedros Anthipologagos. Please.
αλβάνικο βουνό, μονάκριβη σιώτη. Και δεχομένο λέει το δειλινό, την ακριβή σου νιώτη. Και λαγωμένο λέει το δειλινό, την ακριβή σου νιώτη. Πάει ο ήλιος, πάει κι αμόρφος, στα μάτια του νυχτώνει. Κι ο εφεδρός αμφίπολοχάμος κύμαται μες στο χιόνι. Πάει ο ήλιος, πάει κι αμόρφος, στα μάτια του νυχτώνει. Κι ο εφεδρός αμφίπολοχάμος κύμαται μες στο χιόνι. Τα χρόνια σου καπνός, καπνός στα παιδικά, ανάσα η εφηβεία. Στον τοίχο μορτωμένα ιδανικά, μετάλλια και βραβεία. Στον τοίχο μορτωμένα ιδανικά, μετάλλια και βραβεία. Πάει ο ήλιος, πάει κι αμόρφος, στα μάτια του νυχτώνει. Κι ο εφεδρός αμφίπολοχάμος κύμαται μες στο χιόνι. Πάει ο ήλιος, πάει κι αμόρφος, στα μάτια του νυχτώνει. Κι ο εφεδρός αμφίπολοχάμος κύμαται μες στο χιόνι.
Μπράβο!
The name of the poem is The Inheritance. She speaks to me in a language I never learned, this woman I never met, and tells me the most ancient family story of all. I don't remember the season or the place I first heard it. I only remember what Grandpa Anastasius said. Anastasius was a small boy. His grandmother was dying. His grandmother was rich. She owned land in the center of town on both sides of the main street. In the village, Aristophanes ridiculed Aharna Menidi. Rich, unlike Anastasius' father, an Arvanite, so penniless he kidnapped his bride. Anastasius's grandmother sat up, looming above her eldest grandson. Beautiful white linens covered her deathbed. She said to never forget, and gave him a gold coin to engrave the memory upon his brain. She said she remembered when the Turks came and burned their crops to the ground for 7 years in a row. Never forget. Even though I heard her message as a child, I knew it was about a war for Greek independence. I thought I knew why she told it, and I was ashamed for years, ashamed to have my oldest inheritance be hatred of the Turks. Now I am old. I know the real reason why the dying woman wanted her words to live on. The story of our family and what independence meant for us. Not to regret oppression, but to always remember the importance of freedom. Now I understand. Thank you.
Thank you. So, we are in our timeline. We are in Greece in the 50s. War, occupation, civil war. The country tried to stand upright, to heal the wounds, to find its lost rhythm, to find its breath, to pick itself up again. The country's face was half crying, half laughing. The smile was their only hope for a better future, and the sorrow for the foreign land, the farewell. It was a long time ago that the newfound joy carried everyone. Deserted from loved ones, voices were missing, and plates at the table were empty. Only the song helped them to forget their suffering. When you see a desert in your dreams. Αν δεις τον ύπνο σου ερημιά. Η μουσική είναι του Σταύρου Κουγιουμτζή και τα λόγια επίσης.
σε χέρι παιδικό πουλάκι πληγωμένο πάρε τις στράτες να με βρεις εγώ σε περιμένω πάρε τις στράτες να με βρεις εγώ σε περιμένω.
We have just a few more songs to go through. This land didn't have enough. There wasn't enough for everyone. Half full plates, unpaid work. It was hard on their souls. Political mistakes. And then ships sailing to the new world. Hope. on the horizon. In all directions, dreams that call back to life, like the gift that could not be found in the homeland, but only in the broad horizons of Mother Earth. The songs was their comfort, and they helped them forget their suffering. Τώρα που πας στην ξενιτιά, this is a song which all Greeks are more or less concerned by, because we all have either lived abroad or we have families who live abroad, each and every one of us. In the years that follow, the Greek songs rose to the seventh heaven. Melodies and lyrics come from inspirational people, with Mikis Theodorakis and Stavros Xarchakos as the main authors of melodies. The poets enter the music scene and bring it to the top. Among them are literature Nobelists like Seferis and Elitis, which we took parts of it and did our texts tonight, but also inspired and beloved poets like Gatsos, Ritsos, and so many others. With the harmony and the music and the poetry, people then as now want not only to relax and escape, forget, dream, but above all to be redeemed. So the next song is I Had Planted a Heart by Nikos Gatsos. Είχα φυτέψει μια καρδιά. The most important treasure of the heritage is the language. Through the language, we express our deepest feelings. The poems we heard so far were from people who are Greeks who live abroad, second and third generation immigrants, the diaspora. It is amazing that they even know how to speak the language. not alone write and rhyme with it. I would like to thank each and every one of you who was here with us tonight, and everyone out there. We have 10 people watching still who didn't jump off and preserved this little bit. Now, our last poet is Titus Patrikios, who also has lived abroad. He lived in Paris for a while in exile, and he isn't able to connect because he's not capable of the technology, as we weren't either tonight, let's face it. And he has sent us the poem which is called My Language. Η γλώσσα μου, του Τίτου Πατρίκιου. Τη γλώσσα μου δεν ήταν εύκολο να τη φυλάξω ανάμεσα σε γλώσσες που πήγαιναν να την καταβροχθήσουν. Όμως στη γλώσσα μου συνέχιζα πάντα να μετράω. Στη γλώσσα μου έφερνα το χρόνο στα μέτρα του κορμιού. Στη γλώσσα μου πολλαπλασίαζα την ειδονή ως το άπειρο. Μ' αυτήν ξανάφερνα στο νου μου ένα παιδί με άσπρο σημάδι από πετριά στο κουρεμένο του κεφάλι. Πάσχιζα να μην χάσω ούτε μία λέξη της, γιατί σε αυτήν τη γλώσσα μου μελούσαν και οι νεκροί. I will read this one in English as well. My language. It wasn't easy to protect my language between languages which were trying to swallow it. But I always counted in my language. In that language that I brought the time to the measures of my body. In that language that I multiplied the pleasures to infinity. With that language, I was bringing back into my mind the child with the white mark on his head from the stone throw. I was trying not to lose even one word, because in this language, even the dead were speaking to me. Well, with these last words and with our last song, which is το άγγελμα ελευθερίας, the Declaration of Freedom, which Christos Tsitsis wrote together with our maestro. Christos wrote the wording and Dimitris Parolas wrote the music. We're going to say good night